Hello everybody and welcome back for another vlog. Here's a quick one just on the topic of the recently announced Rogue Trooper movie. Now the director of the film has been announced as Duncan Jones, he of Moon, Source Code, Warcraft and Mute. I've known for a while that Duncan Jones is a 2000 AD fan and he's kind of hinted at the fact he would do a 2000 AD movie for a while. He did a slightly oblique kind of tease for it this week, which the reveal of which was him with a blue mohawk. And you know, if you know Rogue Trooper, you know that Rogue has a mohawk, and that's that. So in the world of 2000 AD, it's an anthology comic, and Judge Dredd is the number one. It's the big hitter that everybody knows. Judge Dredd has been in nearly every issue of 2000 AD, of which there are about 2090 as of the time of this video. Other main characters, famous characters are Slain, ABC Warriors, Strontium Dog and Rogue Trooper, among many, many others. Dredd's the only one that's only appeared that consistently. Others appear in kind of swathes. Rogue Trooper first appeared in Prog 228 of 2000 AD. Prog is what us 2000 AD fans call issues. Of course, I happen to have that lying around my house, so here you go. That's Prog 228, cover date 5th of September 1981. Back in the day, 2000 AD was printed on this kind of, it's affectionately known as bog roll. It's very low quality paper. You'll find in this very issue there's a bit of Brian Bolland's Judge Death stuff as well. Rogue, here he is. It's nice for me to explain. He has blue skin, very distinctively. He has a white mohawk, white eyes. And he has a backpack, a gun, and a helmet, which is all very important. So, I think the best place to start with Rogue Trooper is the story. It's a future war story, and I think it even says Zarjaz's new future war story across the top there. The story of Rogue Trooper takes place on a planet called New Earth. New Earth is a strategically important location because it sits beneath a very important black hole that can be used for transportation and trade and such. The two warring factions on the planet are called the Nauts and the Southers. The Nauts are kind of vaguely Slavic, Germanic bad guys that are kind of vaguely communist, vaguely Nazi-ish. And the Southers are more kind of like your Tommies and your American soldiers. It's got a kind of World War II flavour to it. They've been fighting a war on this planet for an incredibly long time, and owing to chemical warfare, they've poisoned it to the point that it's become uninhabitable. So fighting on the planet, you have to wear these very bulky, encumbering sort of breathing suits and chemical suits. They're called chem suits to protect you from all the poisons on New Earth because humanity has ruined it. The Southers, however, have a slight advance in their genetic technology, so they are able to genetically engineer a battalion called the Genetic Infantry, and Rogue is a member of the Genetic Infantry. The Genetic Infantry are a clone army that have been bred to fight the war on this planet without suits, so they can breathe the poison air and they're generally more resistant, so they can be quicker and stronger than your average soldier, and they're unencumbered by all the kind of extra equipment. Each GI has a microchip implanted in their skull called a biochip. And in the instance of their death, if one of their comrades is able to cut the chip out, they have a 60-second window before the battery dies on the chip to slot it into their equipment. So, the helmet, the gun, and the backpack that every GI carries has a little slot in it, and if your friend dies, you can pop the microchip out and stick it in your gun, and then you have like a haunted gun, essentially. So the GIs are deployed into what's known as the Quartz Zone, but when they land into the Quartz Zone, they're ambushed and all of them are wiped out, except for the aptly named Rogue. It's called Rogue Trooper, his name is literally Rogue. Now, I'm going to need you just to bear with me on this one, because I think there's going to be some kind of... well, I don't know how the film version is going to handle this. So, Rogue is the last survivor of this massacre. 3 of his friends are killed in front of him, and Rogue is able to take out the microchips and put them in the helmet, the gun, and the bag, respectively. It just happens, by coincidence, that the guy that goes in the helmet is called Helm, the guy that goes in the backpack is called Bagman, and the guy that goes in the gun is called Gunnar, with an A. and that's just how that stacks up. It's a bit of a stretch, but hey, I do wonder how the film version is gonna tackle that. But I view it as part of the rich tapestry of Rogue Trooper, because Rogue Trooper, in kind of grand 2000 AD style, is very kind of wacky and a bit gonzo. So what you essentially have is this soldier called Rogue, who goes rogue because he receives information that the genetic infantry were betrayed. And he finds out that a general within the Souther ranks is a traitor to the Noughts and betrayed the genetic infantry, so the Southers couldn't deploy them and have that strategic advantage. So what happens then is Rogue and the kind of personalities of his dead friends, encoded as AI into his equipment, wander the planet trying to find the traitor. That's the bare bones, and that's what I assume the film would follow. It had an original run in the 1980s. It was written by Jerry Finley Day. It was illustrated by the Watchmen co-creator Dave Gibbons initially, and there is a lot of very beautiful Dave Gibbons artwork within it. Just incredible line work and pens. If you know your Gibbons, you'll know what that's like. Alan Moore had a go. He wrote some. Peter Milligan wrote some. Quite a lot of different writers came and went. You had Cam Kennedy doing art, Steve Dillon, Kev Walker, all kinds of people have had a go. In the 90s, it had a reboot called The War Machine, which introduced like a new Rogue Trooper. The problem was then that continuity went to shit really quickly, unfortunately. After the initial arc resolved, where, spoilers, Rogue finds the general, it was kind of hard to know what to do with him, so he was like kind of a galactic hitman for a while and stuff like that. It kind of ground to a halt, and then Dave Gibbons, as writer, he intended to illustrate it himself, which he didn't, but Will Simpson ended up illustrating it instead. Created a new Rogue Trooper mini-series called The War Machine, which is like a reboot with a new version of Rogue and everything. And then that got handed over to a writer named Michael Fleischer, and it basically became completely insane. But a bunch of other people guested on it as well. You will find lots of different artists on it, some of which are on my wall. Behind me on the wall here, I've got a piece by Henry Flint, I've got a piece by Chris Weston, I've got a piece by Dylan Teague, who I know at least watches the other channel. They have all worked on Rogue at one time or another. Really amazing artwork. I actually think it's a really good lock for a movie. I mean, my friends, my flatmate here, we were talking about how you do it, and I think what would be good is just that simple story told well. I think what Dredd did was it kind of eschewed kind of continuity baggage and just wanted to introduce that character, do that character justice in a simple story that's very driven. So, you know, for example, the example that was given to me by my flatmate Ivan was Mad Max Fury Road. Because Fury Road, okay, Mad Max, I'm not saying you should reduce the screen time for Rogue, but it's a very simple story. They have to go from a place to a place, and then the characters develop within that, and you know, their motivations are kind of laid bare. It's a straight up revenge thing. It's your standard kind of Ronin story, or your kind of Western Wanderer, and it's got loads of war stuff. A lot of it was about the kind of crazy designs. I mean, visually, it could be really, really interesting. There's loads and loads of insane vehicles and aliens and kind of slightly comedic elements. Lots of kind of really out there concepts, loads of vehicle designs and stuff like that. Fundamentally, I'm very excited that it's Duncan Jones. As I've said many times before, Moon is probably one of my top 10 films ever. When I watched it, it just went up to the top of that list, or into that list at least. I will freely admit that I did not give a glowing review to his last film, Mute, which I found I just couldn't get my head around it. I love Source Code as well. I haven't watched Warcraft because it's not really my cup of tea. Might check it out. But you know, Source Code and Moon I really loved. The thing I felt, genuinely, it may feel as if I'm just bolting this on after the fact, but when I first saw Moon, because I saw it in the cinema when it came out, I watched it and I just thought, this is 2000 AD. This is exactly a 2000 AD kind of mini-series. The whole kind of, the way it's got twists in it, the way it's designed, the setup, kind of corporate intrigue, it felt like a 2000 AD story. In 2000 AD, there are there's a series called Future Shocks, and Future Shocks are these self-contained one-off stories, normally with a twist. They're normally like 3 or 4 pages long, and there's kind of a bit of setup, and then there's a twist. Alan Moore did a bunch of them, Grant Morrison did them, you know, you name it, British comics talent, they all did it. I felt that Moon was like a long-form Future Shock. And over the years, Jones has kind of intimated his love of 2000 AD many times, and I understand that he was offered the Dredd film, but it didn't, I think he said it didn't really match his sensibility. I think he wanted to do kind of the really crazy, wacky 80s version of Dredd, which I would love to see as well, but that's not what DNA Films were going for at the time. So to see his Rogue Trooper, I think, so to speak, I'm really interested. I think it's going to be really, really exciting. I think it's got a cool premise, and I think he's got the kind of right visual style to pull it off. In terms of who could play Rogue, I had this conversation last night. I'm not really sure, because he's kind of a blank slate, really. In a lot of ways, Rogue's, the biochips are have the most personality, I find. They are very distinct personalities, and Rogue's very much their kind of straight man. So I'm not sure I'm that bothered who play Rogue, as long as he's blue and as long as he's got a mohawk, because he doesn't always have a mohawk. Sometimes people draw him with a buzz cut, and that's not on. He's got to have a mohawk. Yeah, so that's about it. I mean, a lot of you kind of, there was a little quick check there that we're still recording. A lot of you have just said, like, I don't know what the fuck this is. That's fine, that's understandable. I mean, people only really know what 2000 AD is because of Dredd in the wider consciousness. Because, you know, I think in the world of 2000 AD, Dredd, Strontium Dog, ABC Warriors, Rogue Trooper, you know, I did a little reel off earlier, are basically what people think of. So, yeah, that's it. If you want to know more, 2000 AD, I think I've just given away a free download comic of the original run of Rogue stories, which I thoroughly recommend you read. They're bloody good. You can get the collected Rogue stories in bookshops now. I think it's called Chronicles of New Earth or Tales of New Earth, which is one of those kind of phone book archive versions. I'm currently wearing the t-shirt of Rogue Trooper, which I had to go dig out of a cupboard because I'm slightly too fat for it these days. And if you wanted a really good digest version of the Rogue Trooper story, I recommend playing the video game that came out about 10 or 12 years ago. You've got the original recipe Rogue Trooper game made by Rebellion, and TikTok Games just released a kind of very nice graphical remake of it at the end of last year, which of course I have. It's a really fun third-person shooter, and I believe the story was written by Gordon Rennie, who's written many modern Rogue Trooper stories, and is kind of a 2000 AD mainstay as well, and that kind of condenses the story, and it's got a good fun shooter. It kind of nails all the cool Rogue Trooper stuff. So there you go, more unscripted rambling from me. I spent I spent far too long trying to figure out the lighting, and now I've just rambled at the camera for a good 10 minutes. But those are my thoughts. That's what Rogue Trooper is. I hope you are excited as I am. I'm going to keep kind of on the button with this one and keep updates coming when I can, because I'm very, very excited for it. And that is it. I will be back soon. Enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy the heat, and tatty bye.